Mary, my dog's name is Cowboy, my bus's name is Max, and on this channel we meet people, we go places, and we do things. And when we do, we need to make sure the books don't go flying. Do you love books? I get it, I love books too. I've heard from a lot of you that the biggest problem you have with downsizing from a house to a vehicle is what are you going to do with your books? You know, because you love your books, you don't want to let go of your books, but books are a serious space management issue when you get into a vehicle. Today I'm going to show you how I deal with books on the bus, and this could actually apply to a lot of things, but I'm going to focus on books specifically. If you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you my favorite new fun way to make sure your stuff doesn't rattle and roll while you're driving. Do not travel well. Just the fact. I read so much as a kid, you know, I was a voracious reader. It kind of was my salvation back then, but as a grown-up, yeah, I don't read nearly that much, and if I do read, it's usually Audible. So with Audible, I'm driving the bus and somebody's reading me a story, and that's the best way for me to consume literature these days. If I really need a hard copy, I'll go on Amazon and I'll print out the Kindle edition. That's pretty much how I do it. I know, it's not as pretty. Books are pretty, the paper feels great. I mean, books can be very seductive, but you gotta ask yourself a question. Okay, it's 2019, soon to be 2020, and you do not need books to read. You can get anything in digital form, doesn't take up any space at all except on a hard drive, and yeah, you're going to live in a vehicle. You want to be fabulous but streamlined, and books make streamlining very difficult. Now, I am not going to pry them out of your hands, and I am not a person to tell you that you can't have your books. You absolutely can have your books, and if you want to, this video is going to appeal to you, but the bottom line is, you don't need them. So the question becomes, do you want them? If you want them, great. No judgment from me. I'm just telling you, it's a question to ask yourself, because you are going to run out of space eventually. And this is coming from a maximalist, so trust me, I understand the impulse to keep everything. You can't. I have a lot of books on this bus. Why? When I just told you that I use Audible, I just told you that I go digital, why do I have all these books? If you've seen any of my videos where I'm, you know, going to Brimfield and other flea markets, you probably know I have a little bit of a side hustle selling books. So I have all these books, you know, vintage books that are on the bus. I could leave them in a box, but a box is going to take up floor space, and floor space in here is precious. Don't want to put them in a box. When I first got the bus, I had a Murphy bed here, and those shelves were the front of the Murphy bed, but then when the bed was down, they became the stand for the Murphy bed. Okay, let's not talk about the Murphy bed. I don't have a Murphy bed anymore, but you can watch the video and check it out. I'll put it up the top here. But I kept the shelves, even though I got rid of the bed. And I like them. They're great for displaying books when I go to a swap meet. They're great for putting pretty things out when I'm camped somewhere, but they're not great for keeping the books on the shelves. They're open shelves, which means that anything I put on them is going to probably be able to jump off pretty easy, and I can never travel with the stuff on those shelves. I'm sure you can imagine what happens to books on a moving vehicle when they're not secured. First thing I did was I put a bungee cord across the front because, you know, bungee cords solve everything, right? It's amazing how well these books were able to jump over that bungee cord, you know, splat on the ground, or I had books everywhere. I hear people all the time saying, oh, my stuff's not going anywhere. I have my sofa bungeed in. I have my stove bungeed in. Yeah. If you've ever had a bungee cord fail, then you know it can be like a slingshot. Then I decided, well, you know, if I crisscross the bungee cords, I put two of them, they won't be able to get out. Then I put them in an X across the books, and I thought, that'll hold them. They can't get past that. But they did. Over, out the side, under. They got out just fine. And even when I put up some E-track, well, you know how much I love my E-track, so I put in an E-track on either end, and I put a nice, sturdy E-track strap across the front, and I thought, I'm golden now. They still managed to jump out because the books are all different sizes, okay? They're not uniform, and so there's gaps in there. There's places where it's just possible for a book to go, boom. You hit a pothole in this thing, and it also go, whoop, and the book will go, What I needed was a system where there's no way for them to go over the top or out the side or out the bottom. You can accomplish this with a nice recessed shelf that has a bar across the front. The problem with that is that in order to get one book out, you kind of have to take them all out, because if they're squished in there and there's a solid bar across the front, that's a little tricky. But what if your build's already done? You know, that's something you kind of have to plan for. I didn't plan for it. I got these open shelves here. It seemed to me the only thing that was going to work was to put a box over the books. Right about then, my futon frame was delivered, and it was unassembled. That was fun. But it came in these boxes that were 48 inches long and narrow, so they were kind of the perfect size to fit right over the books. Serendipity, right? Put the box over the books, put the strap across the box, and ta-da! The books stayed still. It was great. Drove around and nothing fell. It was amazing. It was perfect. The only problem was it was really ugly. And I don't do ugly on this bus. Because they were awkward, you know, boxes, there's not really anywhere to put them in here. So when they were not in use and I was displaying the books, the boxes got put outside, it rained, and they got ruined. I needed a solution that was easy to put away, that fit on the bus. I went to Dollar Tree. I got 4 of these, you know, the trifold display boards. You know, they're cardboard, but they have 3 parts that fold. If I were a little more prepared, I'd have one to show you, but I'm not, and I don't. But you know what I mean. One is not long enough quite to cover all the books, so I took 2, attached them together in the middle, and I fitted it over the books. I left a flap on the top, and then they came down the side. Then I cut a flap on the ends, and I put Velcro on the flaps on the ends so that they can be taken apart and folded flat. And then the flat pieces can go in the closet there. But when I want them to cover the books, I Velcro them together, I make a box out of it, I put them over the books. Put the E-track strap on. Great, great. Again, ugly. I went online and I found some photos of some beautiful antique books, and I printed them in color. Enough copies to cover the whole front of each of these 2 cardboard pieces. I Mod Podged them on there. The cool thing is, when you look at them, you're always seeing books, even when you're really looking at the cover for the books. And as we've established, books are pretty. A lot of people have asked me about these things. They say, oh wow, I thought those were real books. And then other people say, hey, here's a great idea. You could put your real books behind here. Like I would just put cardboard books on a shelf for no reason. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what I do. My real books are behind there. That's what they're for. I like this method. It's working out. Okay, now here's the bonus. Here's how it happened. I went to the beach with a friend of mine, and he left a beach ball behind, and I didn't want it floating off into the ocean and becoming part of that big, you know, patch of plastic out there, so I took it back to the bus, and I don't know why, but for some reason I stashed it inside my microwave. I don't know why. Serendipity again, I guess. So I'm driving along and I noticed that this obnoxious sound that's been bugging me all week is gone. And I had kind of figured out that the sound was the glass turntable inside the microwave just kind of clanking gently against things. It wasn't clanking anymore because the beach ball was in there. So that gave me an idea. I got all kinds of sounds going on all the time. You know, I don't travel with loose stuff just floating around inside my cabinets. Everything's in baskets and stuff, but still it slides around. You hear noises, you know. So I went on Amazon and I bought these. These are beach balls. When I blew them up, they were smaller than I expected them to be. They're just little ones, but they're big enough. I stuck them inside all the cabinets, and where they didn't fit, where there wasn't a lot of space, I deflated them until they did fit. So basically, the beach ball is occupying all the empty space in the cabinet, which means there's nothing for anything to clank off of, which means it is very quiet in my bus now. And that's my tip. If you like these little DIYs and hacks, make sure you look at this playlist because I got a bunch more of them, and I will see you over there. Oops.